Yes, beloveds around the world, welcome to Satsang on Good Friday evening. It's a very special day around the world. Now, the story says that Jesus died on the cross today, and in my understanding, what died on the cross is the identification of who we think we are. And I think this is something that is globally threatened right now. This is why there is so much fear. Now suddenly so many people are stuck at home, and their whole definition as workers or as family members or as friends or as social beings is questioned because there's no or only little connection. So the question that really comes is, who am I? Who am I really? Who am I beyond my job? Who am I beyond my identity as a father, as a lover, as a child, as a brother, as a sister? All these arbitrary definitions that are related to something outside of us or someone outside of us don't work to a certain extent. So, how I understand the story of Jesus, of course, there's a historical report that actually he died, but then there's other reports where when Jesus finally said, "Thy will be done," before he was saying, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" he was still resisting, he was still fighting, he was still arguing with the Creator. And then came a moment where surrender happened. And the surrender is the surrender of the person, the personality, the ego structure that we have been carrying for lifetimes. And suddenly the whole world is in this wonderful identity crisis. And some people are deeply suffering, and I'm really full of compassion for that depth of pain that people feel. I can often feel it inside myself too. We're very connected to everyone around, and yet it's an incredible opportunity to investigate, to inquire very deeply, well, what is this me? Who am I really? And it boils down to what we have been exploring in all these satsangs, and all the satsangs you ever kind of are going to look at, from Moji or from Papaji or from Osho or from Ramana Maharshi, or all these wonderful teachers that all point towards something that our mind can never comprehend. That who we are is so vast. That who we are is just infinite. Like Lao Tzu called it the Tao, and of course the Tao that can be spoken is not the Tao. So who we are, the moment we speak about it, it's a lie. It is a concept of the mind pointing towards this incredible, mysterious reality that is beyond all form, beyond everything that comes and goes. And yet we are that in which everything comes and goes. Now I realize I already started talking a lot, and I hope you're all here to actually be with me. I can feel a lot of you already here. And I'm so grateful for these evenings, even though, it seems like I'm talking to my mobile phone, but I'm talking and I can feel you. It's a miracle. Who is this I? It's the same I in you and in me that is aware of each other. So if you're new to the satsang tonight, the structure is always a little bit different. It's always a spontaneous happening. And eventually, I have my dear friend Steve with us here, who is looking at your comments. And if there's any question or any comment that is arising that you would like to address, or that you would like to have shared here, or if you want my comment on it, please write it, and Steve will find it, and eventually he will give it back to me. Of course, it doesn't mean that I have all the answers, but maybe there's a few insights from my side that I can share with you. Not claiming that it's the absolute truth, because the absolute truth is way beyond the mind. But I'm very happy to be in that field of presence with you. Now, it's an interesting day for me today, because I'm working on this online training for conscious living that eventually will be available around the world. In the moment, I only make it available in Japan. And because simply for practical reasons, I don't know enough to publish it in English yet. But today I've been editing 5 videos all around the third chakra, the solar plexus. And you know, when we were in Pune and on the ranch in America, we learned an incredible depth, an incredible amount of insights about power, the misuse of power, the misunderstanding within the third chakra, the opening, what happens when the third chakra is not going down and out, which is what we usually do when we are in survival mode. We try to defend, we try to protect, we judge, we blame, we accuse, we become tyrants or victims. And we all know how to do that. And we always make other people responsible for how we feel, which is, of course, a childhood residue. And in my understanding, as we penetrate these issues of the third chakra, which is comparison. Anybody does that? Competition. Are we comparing ourselves? Jealousy, possessiveness, control, blame. We call this all power trips that we put on ourselves, and even more, we put it on others. Now, when we are in survival mode, this is what we do to defend ourselves. Today, I was on the farmer's market, and in the farmer's market there are very strict rules about social distancing. And it's amazing how different people answer to these rules. Like one lady who was selling tomatoes, she yelled at everyone. She was so freaked out about people coming maybe a centimeter too close to each other or to her. And then the banana vendor, a very, very beautiful guy, he was totally relaxed and friendly and loving and open, and people naturally had the normal distance. And the two stands where the stand owners were yelling at the people got really confused and actually did not keep their distance. So, you know, like, survival mechanism is incredible. And of course there is so much fear around, because there's a reality. People lose their job, people don't have an income, people get frustrated because their lover is at home with them and they cannot take space. There's many, many things that provoke our power trips. And the power trips are just a protection of our deep vulnerability. And when we dare, and I include myself here, I feel incredibly vulnerable. when we dare to open to our vulnerability, and yes, it's painful, yes, the heart is hurting, yes, sometimes the heart feels like it's breaking. And I just want to invite us all to allow it to break, because what happens when the heart breaks? It reveals something that we covered up with all our holding on to a fake personality, a fake identity. I call it fake because the truth of who we are is much, much bigger, much, much vaster. And energetically, the inner step we all invited to do in this crisis is to allow the third chakra to be infused by the heart, and the vibration of the third chakra to actually bridge into the heart. Now, how would that look? It would look like the third, which is the solar plexus, the plexus of the sun, would open into an incredible joy, would open into that capacity to move things, to actually respond through action. Third chakra is an action center, and allowing the action to express itself through the heart creates a positive action, creates a creative atmosphere where many, many new things can arise, many new ways of interaction, many new ways of loving each other among couples rather than constantly fighting for supremacy. This is very big. No? Now, all the states have now around the world a huge control. Now, if we buy into that control and become a victim of that, we are in the same boat. So police controls, prime ministers control, health ministers control. If we become a victim of that, it's the same thing, tyrant and victim. We have the chance to move beyond that. We have the chance to move into the glory of our charismatic joy, charismatic power that is the power to change, the power to move forward into an unknown terrain. This is what all the adventurers among us love. Why do we like adventure? Because we move into the unknown with the drive and with the joy, and we are ready to meet anything because we don't know. We don't know, will we succeed or fail, but it doesn't matter. The movement through the heart, through love, the movement when power is paired with love and compassion, can create a completely new humanity. Now, when I listen to myself, it sounds like a fantastic dream, but it's possible. That everything is so shaken up that out of chaos, stars are born. They can be born. So I'm very passionate about this. And it is good to allow all these ghosts to come out of the closet. We cannot try to not judge or to not blame or to not control. That doesn't work. But when we see it arising, we can see it as for what it is, an ancient pattern of protection that covers the love expression that we are. Does it make any sense? Are you with me there? Again, if you have any comment or question, you don't need to believe anything that I'm saying. It's more like my passion. Now Steve gives me a sign.
There was a question relating to what you've been talking about.
Yes.
About what happened today at the market.
Yes.
The getting too close together, the people getting too close together and people getting triggered.
Yes.
The question is from Maria Acciardo.
Yeah. Hi Maria, thank you for your question.
She asks, Rahasya, can you share some exercises for staying present with very strong rage energy for someone standing very close? Sadness is no problem for me, but the volume and wavelength of violent rage triggers energy in my body, and the tendency is to go to my head.
Yes, because rage down the ages has been incredibly threatening for our sensitive, I call it the second body, the feeling body. The rage is an outward movement to protect something that we don't even know is inside, which is usually shock and fear. And if there's nothing wrong with rage, you can feel the rage, but in my exploration, I used to be a therapist, we worked a lot with anger and rage. So there is these three levels. The first level is what we all know, we have repressed our anger and rage. And anything we have repressed doesn't go away, it's still in the body. When some authority, and usually father or mother was the first authority or both, were dominating us, we had to repress a natural anger. So we learned repression. The next level in rage, to bring consciousness to it, is expression. When we are unconscious, we put it on others. So your rage is probably focused on somebody who appears to be too close to you. Now the poor guy doesn't know how much rage you have suppressed in your life, so you put it on him. That's still unconscious. I'm not blaming you, it's not wrong. As we see it, we see more. The third stage is you become aware that it's your rage and you feel it. And if you have a chance, after the situation, you don't put it on the person, you put it in a cushion and you scream and yell and cry. For that, for example, dynamic meditation that Osho has devised is an amazing meditation where you can release into a neutral field all your anger. And we have a lot. And I tell you from my own experience, I've been raging. I thought I was a very peaceful guy. But when I started to discover my anger, I was surprised. It's so much rage. So expression into a neutral place. Of course, in the market, that's not... Excuse me, there was an interruption. You have to be conscious enough. And the fourth stage is you feel it arising and you absorb it inside. And then the rage itself becomes aliveness. And then the person who stood too near to you actually is a situation in which your aliveness responds. And when your aliveness responds, then the other is not responsible, you just move. You understand? If somebody is too close, you are free to move. That's all. If you express your rage, the other feels blamed, touches his own fear, his own pain. He doesn't want to feel that pain. Your rage is an outer expression to put it on somebody else. You make somebody else responsible for how you feel. And that rage is just a superficial emotion. If you dare to feel it, you will find a lot of old hurt, a lot of pain, a little child that is shocked, a little child that is helpless, that doesn't know, that is freaked out because it thinks it's going to die. Now, it needs a lot of courage to feel that. And when we actually dare to feel that, we discover that maybe all is well. That maybe life just gives us a situation to become conscious of an unconscious anger that we have held in for years. Nothing wrong with it. But that's the difference between war and the possibility to awaken. I hope that makes sense to you. And I'm not saying try to be holy. I'm not saying, you're beyond anger. Nobody is beyond anger. Anger is a vital expression, and yet it's just a surface, and under the surface are so many feelings. And in the moment, we are all incredibly vulnerable. Now the question to all of us here is, can we allow that deep vulnerability, can we allow it to ground in the now? You ask for a way or a technique. Well, the way is bring your whole attention to the now. Feel the heat. It's like lava flowing through your veins. It's an amazing experience if you're in it. If you throw it on somebody else, you cannot experience it. And in that feeling, you become totally present. You become a kind of a radiant beam of aliveness. And when you absorb that, then that beam of aliveness becomes joy. Rage plus presence plus absorption becomes joy. Don't believe me, you have to test it. I think many of you that listen now, you may remember that sometimes you have a great fight with somebody, and at the end of the fight you suddenly see the ridiculousness of it all and you laugh. Can you relate to that? We're all humans, so don't judge yourself. Just let it be a situation, because everything in life is always a situation to meet something that has been inside of us, that through the situation has been provoked and surfaces. If we understand that, it may not be so romantic. It's the same thing with love, We say, I love you so much. Well, if we would be more clear about what's happening, we could say, well, you are such a beautiful situation in which the love that is already within me is surfacing. Now, of course, that's not so romantic, but it's perhaps more true. You find out.
Maria's laughing. She says, I just have this huge mirror this time, and she's laughing.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing that. That's fantastic. Yeah. So all these situations are an amazing opportunity to wake up. And the waking up is not a one moment thing. It is a waking up to life in all its variety, until eventually you find that which is aware of the whole variety, which is the truth of who you really are. Can you follow that? So we started with poor Jesus hanging on the cross. Aren't we all Jesus on the cross right now? There's an outer situation where the governments have put us into an impossible situation, where everything in us says, why have we been forsaken by the divine creation? Well, we haven't. We just haven't found that opening into thy will be done. We still think we are in control here. Well, there's a bigger picture, whatever your interpretation is. Obviously the earth has a little break, the climate has a little break, the sky is suddenly clear in Wuhan, for example, or in Italy, in Milan, because nobody is out. All these flights that pollute the air suddenly are cancelled. I mean, it's a huge thing which gives a break to this beautiful earth. Now we are part of this beautiful earth. Maybe we also need that break. And the best break is meditation. because meditation kind of ends that obsessive idea of becoming, of looking for a better next moment. It is that total let go into just now. It's the allowing of what is here now. It is the end of arguing about what is here now. It is an allowing of all sensations, of all feelings, of all thoughts, of all life expressions of the body, and we are just there watching within the experience. And what happens then is the resistance to any experience disappears. And my dear friend Steve, who is looking at your questions, he wrote a beautiful book called Inner Sky, Life Begins Where Resistance Ends. I think that's a very beautiful title, because resistance is kind of compartmentalizing life into digestible boxes, but life is much more bigger than a little box. So, shall we meditate a little bit? I think we're just going to sit for about 20 minutes, and then we come back and perhaps some questions have arisen, maybe there's a little bit more talking, and then at the end, towards the end, I would like to continue sharing the Atisha meditation, because it's a very powerful meditation to transform suffering into blessings. And I think many of my fellow travelers and many people around the world are really deeply suffering and don't know what to do with it, don't know how to respond to it. Okay? So right now, let's just sit comfortably with the spine upright, close your eyes, take a few deep conscious breaths, and just with each out-breath, letting go and allowing everything to be as it is. And of course, that what is, for example, thoughts, they will continue flowing. Feelings will continue changing. Body will continue have its blood circulating. Heart will continue beating. So everything is in movement. And yet, we are still. We are that which is aware of all changes and of all movement and all experience. In some traditions this is called the watcher, the witness. But the witness is not a thing. It's a space. We are that space that is aware of all experience. Enjoy. are. You can take a deeper breath and just gently become aware of the body again. It's like almost like we are diving from this infinite, deep, deep open space. We are diving back to the surface. We're coming up into the body and up into this moment with all our sensory experiences. With a deep breath, maybe a little stretch, knowing that, after a while we're going to go back and dive even deeper. This is like, when a diver comes up to the surface and takes a deep breath and is aware of all the surroundings again, and then later we're going to dive even deeper. And perhaps you notice, just as we've been sitting for about 20 minutes, everything becomes a little more peaceful. Every thought has a little bit more space. Every feeling has a little bit more space. Now, if we understand the principle of love and acceptance, and if we get a glimpse of the vastness of who we are, perhaps then the very idea that we need to change something, or that we need to heal something, or that we need to fix something, or that we have to become a better person, becomes irrelevant, because that which we are, whether it's positive or negative, is already tenderly held in this moment, tenderly held in consciousness. Now that may sound very strange, because especially for those of us who have done a lot of therapy, we always were in the idea that we need to transform something, that we need to change something, that we need to have more light. And yet the darkness, what about the darkness? What about our jealousy? What about our possessiveness? What about our shame and guilt and shock? What about all these life expressions that our mind decided that they are not okay? What if we suddenly find that it is all here, it is all tenderly held? The little child inside that is hurt is as much held as the glorious, courageous adventurer. The shocked being that is overwhelmed by a strong emotion is as much held as a centered meditative state. The more we understand this, then we don't need to choose anymore. Then we feel part of this incredible existence that in itself doesn't know a resistance to what is. It just is. Darkness is, light is, negative emotions are, positive emotions are. But the mystery is that negative emotions held in tenderness shift, not when we want them to shift, but when we feel that atmosphere of acceptance, this atmosphere of allowing, that spaciousness of the sky that holds the dark cloud as much as the blue sky. Or in other words, the blue sky is always there. Whether there's a white cloud, a black cloud, a silver lining, it's all there. is all tenderly held in consciousness already. When we realize that, we become more tolerant with who we are. You know, from the beginning of our life, we learned the first two swear words, right and wrong, good and bad, high and low, light and shadow. And from the very beginning we get trained into this division, where there is in reality no division. There's a space where all has its function. The more we relax into the space, the more we feel at peace here, the more we are an open place that can allow what is. This is what happened to Jesus the moment he was hanging on the cross and there was no escape anymore. That deep realization, thy will, the bigger will, that which is aware, is choiceless. It took me so many years to understand when Osho talked about choiceless awareness. I made an ideal out of it. I should be choiceless, whereas who I am is already choiceless awareness. Who you are is already choiceless awareness. You have no choice what thoughts arise. But when the awareness wakes up more, then there is an appearance that seems to be like a choice. Because then wherever we put our attention is where our energy flows. Normally, in our ego structure, our attention flows towards the negative because no is much more powerful than yes. Did you ever notice that? The moment you say no, you and all your surroundings are separate. It's very powerful. You create an island. The moment you're in a yes, it's very different. Yes is kind of an opening. You're in the flow. You're in yes to what is. And the more yes is there, the more the ego, the separate sense of self, simply disappears into the flow. That's why often consciousness is kind of compared to a river, to the water causeway. The water simply flows. If it meets an obstacle, it doesn't say, no, I don't want that obstacle, it just flows around it. If it finds a dam, it accumulates until eventually it flows over the dam. But every river obviously finds the ocean. Does that make any sense? So meditation is really like stepping into the flow of the river. We don't even need to swim. We don't need to swim against the current. We can just let go, and something that we can call God or existence or the divine is moving us. Every moment it's moving us. We just pretend that I'm moving. It's a funny thing. Two questions, yes.
Katie Rose.
Katie Rose, hi Katie.
She asks, how to be at peace or non-attached when it comes to the possibility of my mother or somebody that I'm close to possibly becoming unwell or suffering. Thank you very much. Blessings.
Well, how to be at peace in itself is already, I would say, the wrong question, because who we are ultimately is peace. And unless you find that behind all life expressions, our ego structure or our personality will struggle with something that feels unpeaceful. Now, when your mother gets unwell, there is these different reactions. Of course, mother is somebody that we are very identified with because we were part of her body. We were inside of her belly. We are the same material in a way. So mother body and your body is one, or at least it has been one. So there's a strong identification. And when mother becomes unwell, then that part in you that is identified becomes unwell. And then the fear of her being unwell is actually your own fear. And when you recognize that, then you can dare to experience your fear. Because your mother may not even be afraid. Body keeps changing and body eventually will die. And if you are at peace with your own death, which of course we have so many little deaths. Each time we lose money, there's a death because we are identified with money. Each time we lose a job, there is death because we are identified with the job. Each time we have a fight or we lose a lover, there's a death because we are identified with the other. And when the other leaves, it leaves a gap. So your fear of your mother becoming unwell is actually the fear in you, and the amazing freedom we have is to meet that fear, to allow it rather than to reject it, or rather than to be frantically trying to cover it up. You allow it to open you. It breaks your heart. When your mother gets sick, it's like it breaks your heart. Now let the heart break open, and you will find some very different thing. You will find a deep, caring heart that feels like supporting or healing or nourishing or whatever you can do as a daughter or as her child to help alleviate her suffering, knowing that it's always only temporary. Because everybody and everyone eventually will die. So then, with that in mind, how would you treat your mother, knowing that maybe the time is not forever? In my understanding, or in my experience also with my mother, who died prematurely, I would say, is, well, have I loved enough? Have I shared my love with her? No? Of course, you can do whatever is medically possible to help her when she gets unwell, but eventually it's all love that counts. Everything else, fear, the fear of your mother becoming unwell is love upside down. No? Now, when we function from fear, we create more fear. Because it's basically a stress response. Then we want to fix it, then we feel helpless, then we feel stressed, then we release stress hormones, and then we get sick. Because the stress hormones eventually lower the immune system. So the best way to help and support your mother is you be happy. You lift the energy out of the three survival centers, the physical survival, the emotional survival, and the strategies to protect, and allow the heart to open. Allow your love. Behind all the trips that we have with our relatives please forgive me, maybe you don't have a trip with your mother, but we all somehow have we have conflict areas with the people that are closest to us. Now, in the face of the recognition that this relationship may not be forever, everything and everybody comes and goes, this insight brings us to the essential. And the essential is, have I loved enough? Have I shared my love? Have I dared to go beyond my egoic assertion of individuality, of I need to be in my own power, to love? And then you can ask yourself, well, how would love act right now? I know fear would act, it freaks me out that she is unwell. How would love act? Well, who knows? Be curious what comes. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay? And the next question.
Celia Fisher.
Celia. Hello, Celia.
It's along the same line.
Yeah.
The thought of a person dying in hospital alone, for example, with relatives not allowed to be there and the hospital staff covered in protective gear. Some will die in panic and anxiety, they said. This is breaking my heart. How can I cope? I think it might be my own fear of my own dying alone.
Yes. Now, it may be a strange answer for you, but I would recommend let your heart break. Let it break open. Let it reveal what is beyond the heart. Don't be afraid of the pain. Allow the pain to open you. And what you will find there, and this is really very, very important, I teach that a lot in the counseling from the heart training, is like when you go deeper than all your layers of personality. And the layers of personality are, if you go backwards, are our identification, our beliefs, our ideals and shoulds, our strategies and defenses, our vulnerability and childhood traumas, and our physical issues. When we go deeper than that, you will find there is a space. And if you really want to support your relatives, if there's one in the hospital that is totally alone and you're not allowed to visit them and they will die, it doesn't mean they die alone. Because when you go deep inside into your own inner emptiness, you will connect with your beloved's emptiness who is in the hospital. And that emptiness is actually not empty, it's pure love. And when you hold yourself and that person in the hospital in love, they will not feel alone. They will wonder how peaceful it is. Because you are at peace. You are the world. The deeper, this is a sentence that has been with me for many, many years, which originally was one of the teachings of Osho when he talked to us therapists. He said, the deeper you are within yourself, the deeper you connect with the essence of the other. When you completely within, in the space of emptiness, in the space of love, that's where you are one with the other. And the strange thing is, the other feels that, because we are all connected in that invisible field of love. So, and of course the heart, the compassionate heart, feels the ache of it and feels your own fear, like you say. You feel your own fear where you feel, my God, I don't want to die alone. No? Well, there is a bridge between what looks like loneliness and aloneness. And in English, aloneness is a beautiful word because it's actually says all oneness, aloneness. And the all oneness, of course, is not within the body, it's not within the emotions, it's not within the personality, it's not within all the layers that make us a human being. It is the emptiness of the being, or the love of the being. That's where you're connected. So if you want to connect very deeply with anyone that looks like he or she is dying alone, go in, meditate, find that place that is undisturbed by any fear, by any heartbreak, by any anxiety, by any shock and shame and unworthiness and guilt and all these things that cover us up. And heartbreak is the best. Imagine the heart breaks. What does it reveal? Space. Love, but a different love, not the romantic love, not the attachment love, the love that is space. So I often find myself, when I work with people and they talk about heartbreak, I say, well, it's okay, let it break. Even the breaking of the heart is held in the tenderness of existence. And you are as vast as existence. Okay? Now it needs courage, because everything in society tells you how terrible it is. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe we discover through that heartbreak a place in us that has always been there, that is eternal. And we are eternity. Body comes and goes. Everything comes and goes. But what doesn't come and go? You. Hope that helps. Now this is a very deep place to look at reality from. And when I use words, of course, it's only pointing to that infinite mystery, pointing to the mystery that can never be demystified. And in a way where we are all now in this crazy world that is so limited in our life expression that we have to stay home, it catapults us back into our inner spaciousness, if we dare. And this is kind of the invitation through our outer situation. Does that make any sense? Is there any other question before we dive even deeper into the healing heart meditation? If you have anything to ask or say or comment, or want me to say something that you write so that everybody can hear it, this is a good moment. You know, what I just shared with you with the question about your mother that may feel unwell. I feel in this moment so connected to all of you, even though I don't know who is connected, who is with me on this call. I have no idea, but beyond the name, beyond the form, there is an incredible presence. I'm sitting in my pool house where I give my sessions, and there's only Steve here, and yet you are all here. And whenever you touch the depths of love, you are more here. So there's an incredible presence here that touches me, that touches me beyond my little my little Rahasya me. So I feel very grateful for these meetings. You're just a wonderful situation that kind of inspires me to hold these meetings. Now, this is more for the new friends that are joining me tonight. The last few times we ended the satsang with what I call the healing heart meditation, that is originally kind of discovered by an enlightened master called Atisha, Tibetan master, many years ago, hundreds of years ago. And Atisha had somehow the good fortune to be with 3 masters, so we could say he got enlightened 3 times. And the first master was the master of the heart, the master of love. And when Atisha discovered that he is love and pure space, he wanted to go out and teach, and the master said, no, no, no. Now you go to the master of devotion. You know, love is in the heart, the master of heart. Go to the master of devotion and learn devotion. And then Atisha studied with the master of devotion, which is within the throat chakra. And he woke up and got enlightened again, if that's possible, through the master of devotion. And then he thought, now I'm ready to go out and teach. And the master said, no, 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 there's another master. He's the master of awareness. Now, I could go on. There's probably more masters. There's the master of oneness. So there's many different aspects of awakening that all lead to the same infinity. And from his wonderful experience with these 3 masters, Atisha became an incredible teacher because he could tune into the different qualities of the different disciples that needed different approaches for their awakening. Now, tonight we spoke already about the heart breaking and the heart of love. And the Atisha heart transformation or heart healing meditation is using this insight that the core of the heart is empty, called the inner sky, called the empty heart. And the amazing thing is we can use the empty heart to absorb any energy structure that we can call suffering, fear, unworthiness, guilt, shame, panic, shock, jealousy, anything, and absorb it in the heart. In many New Age techniques, you get rid of suffering and you breathe in blessings. Well, this is exactly the opposite, because suffering is not separate from us, so you can absorb it in the empty heart, and here it all dissolves, and the blue sky is what's left. And that is the blessings of clarity, of peace, of silence, of love that we can breathe out. So I'm going to guide us a little bit into the Atisha meditation. And if you are aware of any suffering, whether you have asked a question or not, any fear, any hurt, any unworthiness, any guilt, any shame, any panic, allow yourself to absorb it in the heart. Yes, you maybe can visualize it or imagine it. It all helps. And you will find it dissolves in the empty heart, because the sky is always empty, no matter what appears in it. And then the out-breath can carry the blessings of this spaciousness, of that love, into the body-mind. Shall we try that? So close your eyes, and it may be helpful if you bring one or both of your hands on your heart, because wherever we bring our attention to is where our energy flows. So if our attention is on fear, we become more fearful. As our attention is on the heart, feel how your energy flows into the heart. Now feel your heart. You will notice that on the surface, our heart is connected to the feeling side of the being. Now feel your heart, and maybe your heart is already aching because it's connected to all the aching hearts around the world. Or maybe your heart feels touched and open. Or maybe your heart feels protected because you never know, maybe you have been hurt too much. Now, whatever you're feeling in your heart, it is a sensation that can also be felt in the body as a somatic, as a physical sensation. And here we can use the support of the breath. So allow each in-breath to touch your heart from the inside. If your heart carries pain, allow the in-breath to expand the pain or expand the sensation. And in the out-breath, imagine you can melt deeper than that sensation. You can melt deeper than this experience. So that eventually, with each in-breath, you're expanding the experience of this moment. And with each out-breath, you fall through the experience deeper inside. Now for the mind, maybe you need to imagine it, maybe you need to kind of get a sense that there is an opening when you breathe out, an opening inside. Now that opening is the unknown. So as we expand the experience of now in the in-breath, that's known, you feel it. And then in the out-breath, you fall into the unknown, deeper than this experience. And the mind doesn't know what is deeper than that. So each in-breath, opening, each out-breath, falling deeper. Each in-breath, expanding the experience of now, even if it's painful, or if it's blocked, or if it's shocked, or if it's numb. Let it be there, let it open. Each out-breath, and letting go. And like this we discover that we naturally melt deeper than all these experiences. We melt deeper than thought. We melt deeper than feeling. And of course thought and feeling and everything else continues. Just our attention moves deeper. Deeper than body sensations. Deeper than the breath. Deeper than the heartbeat. Deeper than all experience. It's almost like we are falling down an abyss. And when we ask ourselves, well, who or what am I deeper than all experience? There's absolutely no answer. The mind may say nothing, or space, or darkness. And normally when we touch that, we want to fill it quickly with something. And right now just allow it to be no thing, like the empty sky. And this is who we are. And that insight that Atisha had many hundred years ago is the same as we have now. That deep inside is pure space. You can call it the inner sky. And that rediscovery can be used for a deep healing and cleansing of the body-mind. So here we go. Any suffering that you're aware of right now, any fear, any anxiety, any guilt, any preoccupation, any worry about other people or yourself, any health issues that you're struggling with, allow them to ride on the in-breath and enter the heart and flow through the heart. And naturally they dissolve, the structure dissolves in the empty sky, or in the empty heart, like Zen says. And the out-breath can carry the blessings of peace. It's like the peace of the universe. Blessings of love, of healing, of wholeness, back into the body-mind. And you can actually feel these places where suffering was lodged, maybe as a body tension, or as a pain, or as a restriction, or as a numbness. And as the blessings return there, it's almost like life returns there. Again, a deep breath with riding on the in-breath, inviting any suffering that you're aware of. Let it flow through the heart and dissolve in the empty sky. Just like we have seen sometimes in the morning mist just dissolving on a sunny day. And then the out-breath can carry the blessings of peace, of love, of healing back into the body-mind. Filling those places with love and relaxation. Breathing in any suffering that you're aware of. Totally opening up. And we don't need to hold it in the heart. Let it flow through the heart and dissolve in the empty sky. And the out-breath carrying the blessings of peace, of vastness, of silence, of space, back into the body-mind. Breathing in suffering. Breathing out blessings. Breathing in suffering. Breathing out blessings. You may notice as we allow that, It is more like watching this phenomenon that is absolutely natural. Riding on the in-breath, absorbing in the heart all suffering. And as it flows through the heart, it dissolves in the infinite inner sky. And the out-breath carrying the divine blessings, because that inner sky is the divine, filling those places in the body-mind that were occupied by suffering. And now, if you feel ready, now you trust yourself. Some of you have joined this meditation a few times. So if you feel ready and comfortable, we can extend the heart to friends and family. And here this is very beautiful. You can do that with your mother that maybe you are worried about, or a friend that you're worried about, or somebody that in your neighborhood or that is close to you that you feel is struggling. You can absorb their suffering, allow their suffering to ride on the in-breath and flow through your heart. Now it's very important that you don't hold the suffering of your friends, that you allow it to flow through. And you will find in the inner emptiness it naturally dissolves, like even thick clouds dissolve on a sunny day. And then the out-breath can carry the blessings of healing, of clarity, of love, of peace to the friends, to the family, to your mother, to your father, to your relationship partners. Breathing in any their suffering, allowing it to flow through the heart. Don't hold it in your body or mind, just allow it, let it through. It dissolves in emptiness. And the out-breath carrying the blessings of peace, of healing, of silence, of space, back to the friends and family. And the deeper we understand that in the depths of emptiness we are one, then that emptiness is fullness, that emptiness is love. So breathing in any suffering that you're aware of among your friends and people close to you, flowing through the heart, evaporating in the empty sky. And breathing out the blessings of peace, of healing, of love, of care, of compassion, back to the friends and family. Maybe a few more breaths, maybe 3 more deep, deep breaths, absorbing suffering, breathing out blessings. Riding on the in-breath, inviting all suffering. Breathing out love, care, compassion, kindness, blessings. And you may even feel how the people close to you begin to relax, they begin to attune to this vibrational field that we all share, that spaciousness of the empty heart. Now you may want to continue with that, or if you feel ready, but trust yourself, This is for those of you who feel ready and understand the depths of this possibility. You can open to the suffering of the whole world. And there's a lot of fear these days, a lot of anxiety, a lot of suffering, a lot of pain, a lot of survival. And you can allow that stream of suffering to ride on the in-breath and flow through your heart and evaporate in the inner sky. The inner sky is endless, it's vast enough, it has never been touched. And the out-breath can be like a powerful stream of blessings and love to all beings around the planet, including our Mother Earth. Riding on the in-breath, absorbing, allowing this river of suffering to flow through the heart and evaporate in the empty sky. And the out-breath, carrying the blessings of peace, of healing, of love, of trust, back to all beings. Absorbing and breathing in all suffering. And for some of you, you may have a vision of that, or a sense of that, or a feeling of that. As it flows through your heart, it dissolves naturally in the empty sky, in that which is aware of all experience. And the out-breath, carrying the blessings of peace, of healing, of love, like a strong river of light, touching all beings and touching Mother Earth. Breathing in suffering, absorbing it, allowing it to dissolve within. Breathing out blessings, peace, love, silence, grace, divinity. And a few more breaths in your own rhythm. And with the last out breath, a shower of blessings to all beings. May all beings be free of fear and free of suffering. May all beings remember their deepest nature as peace and love. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May all beings be happy. And then we can just drop into the empty sky and sit for a few minutes in the vastness of that which is aware of all experience.
Sweeter than life itself, you are you. I'm a wanderer, you are my peace. I'm a prisoner, you are release. Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, Jai I'm a pilgrim, the road so long. I am the singer, you are the song. Held in the open sky, so far above. I am the lover, you are the love. Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, Jai
Yes, beloveds, thank you for tonight. Thank you for being with me. Be well all around the world, and many, many blessings, and stay healthy. All my love to you. We have another satsang in 1 week. Be well. Namaste.